Welcome back. On our special segment, Rising Stars, today we're joined by a successful entrepreneur, Aditi Avasthi. She's the founder and CEO of embibe, which is a Mumbai-based ed-tech startup that helps students prepare for competitive exams. Aditi, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Now, you actually have a banking background. You were just telling us you went to the University of Chicago, so you know all about business and markets and valuations, more importantly.
Yeah.
And more importantly, when there's been so much debate, when we talk about the entire e-commerce space, not only locally, internationally for that matter, questioning the way valuations have been panning out.
So I know I have a lot of my entrepreneur friends watching, so I think everything that's being funded is unrealized potential and it should be even bigger, right? But memory is also a decreasing exponential function of time, so it's been 3 years since I graduated, so 5 years actually. So I'm just going to plead,
So tell us about embibe then. What's happening here? What kind of potential are we talking about? What's been new at it?
So I think before we talk about embibe, I'd like to give my 2 cents on education, right?
Okay.
I think that fundamentally, if you take a step back and look at education and emerging markets, I see 2 problems, right? The first has been beaten to death. It's about access, right? The people don't have access, the people starving, let's do the midday meal program, let's do this, let's do that. But the other problem, which is actually a pretty scary problem just below the surface, is the problem of underperformance. Okay. So if I just give you an interesting stat, in the IIT-JEE entrance exam, so there's a prelim exam these days, it's about 1.4 million students take it. Only 5% of the students actually score above 30% in the exam, despite $1,200 paid per average per year per student on coaching fees outside of regular schooling. And it's actually a moderate difficulty test. So the question is, and if you look at pass rates in the government, right? I mean, in government schools. So the question is, we're investing a lot of education dollars. We say we want to invest more education dollars to solve the access problem. But unless and until we track the ROI problem and become more student-centric as a country, we can't do it. And this is where tech comes in, right? Because what you can do is, if you think about it, right, healthcare, if you just imagine like a patient in it's not a very pleasant visualization, but let's say in the ICU, think about how many monitors monitor his decision. You think about your car, you've got dashboards. But when it comes to education, we're still so physical. It's completely counterintuitive. So using measurement, you can forensically detect everything that the kid is doing online, and you can hyper-personalize the feedback and make every single student improve. Think about that.
So are people understanding the concept? I mean, are they appreciating the advantage of going online, or are they just seeing it as, oh, I can't make it to the school, so I'll go onto the internet?
So, we're we're just on the other side of our second year of results, so why don't I give you some real numbers, right? So we've seen this data across about 10,000 tests taken on embibe as a sample, 23% improvement on average in score just after taking 1 test through our feedback. The second thing is that 92% predictability in the actual scores versus the scores on embibe. That means that students are scoring as much as the JEE mains on this. So that means we've really got the content figured out. And on the other front, they're improving virtually without any intervention. Now, if you stack that up, against the ROI equation, right? If you scale a product like that and give it to everybody, suddenly you don't need, a huge teacher population sort of aiding the education problem. It could be virtual consumption.
So how do you stand out? Because I'm sure there are there's a lot of competition in this segment, may it be online, may it be in offline for that matter. So how do you manage to stand out? What's your strategy been in that context? How do you differentiate in regard to content? What really makes you stand out in that regard?
So I think that education and healthcare are 2 such sectors that anybody who stands there and says, I'm going to make a difference, is worth a lot of respect. So I have a lot of respect for everybody who's doing some work. But I think our unique take was that we're the pioneers in looking at data with education. Right. So way back in the day, I met Sandeep Murthy. He's our angel investor now, a partner at Lightbox, and one of our Series A investors along with Kalari Capital. I said, Sandeep, the problem is information. And he said, yeah, but these tablet companies, the content companies. I said, no, we've got to get the student the right information at the right time and right place to help him score higher, drive down the panic, and localize the effort where it is needed. We've got to keep the parents in the loop and make sure that the teacher is able to grapple with increasing class sizes, which happens because of increasing fees, right? And actually sort of give them like a Google Glass, which helps them to, again, make every student improve as an individual.
Okay, so you've already got a round of funding coming in. And now, of course, at this stage of a startup, and particularly in this industry, it's more about growth, I'm sure, at this point, rather than figuring out revenues. But what is the plan, and where are you utilizing that funding? How are things progressing when it comes to growth?
So first of all, in terms of funding, there's always a plan for more funding,
yes,
right?
Of
so
course.
for anybody interested. But I think that we were waiting for the second year of results to come through because, you know, education is a multi-year cycle, right? So you can't be a pop and drop business. You could create artificial virality by doing social gimmicks. You could do artificial engagement by putting easy questions. But we wanted to prove that at the level of the exam, students improving virtually and giving us tremendous feedback. Like, I mean, you find this interesting. The second year in a row, we have 2 students in the top 10 in the country, right? Now we are ready to scale and employ growth capital. There would be 3 directions that we would be taking this money into. The first is to be adding new content and exams because we want everybody in India to have access to this platform. The second thing that we want to be doing is investing more in data science, you know, which is what we started out with. And the third thing that we want to do is obviously, you know, market the exams that we're building out and make sure that everybody can have access to it, you know, as accessible as possible.
Okay, so where is your major market? Is it tier 2, tier 3 cities? Is it all over? Where are you finding the most demand?
So, you know, I don't like, I find it a little gimmicky when people say tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. I feel like education is a great homogenizer. Because even in Bombay, you have, you know, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, you know. And education is also the great equalizer because people want to get ahead. And it's the one big meritocracy that India has. So when you sit in the classroom, it doesn't matter whose son you are. You know, you're dealt equal coin. So I feel like the bigger question is, you know, can you make a student of every single ability level improve? Right? Can you make the performer get better? Can you make the achiever get better? Can you make the guy just scraping through improve? And that's what we've achieved.
What about any plans of integration, any tie-ups that are probably there on, you know, on the horizon? Are you looking to tie up with some of the, you know, education firms out here? How do you plan to go about regarding your content?
So, you know, what's interesting is that so far we built our own content, right? But if you look at the kind of people who work with Embibe, you might have heard of Super 30, right? So last year, Abhay Anand's Super 30 took us on board and as an exclusive testing and performance analysis partner. Now, this is a NGO that has made a lot of ripples across the board, and they set up a computer lab because they believed Embibe would help them, right? 2 years we were lying low, trying to make sure we perfect the outcomes platform, right? Now we're ready to scale. We also have a bunch of other education provider, you know, platforms.
And you've got teachers on board as
Teachers
well.
on board and teachers outsourced. But more importantly, you know, I kept the content team on board because I wanted us to not be able to get scammed by anybody because students have to get the right level of content. Now that we know this, we're going to, in the future, create a platform that empowers teachers to be able to upload their content regardless of where they are. Right?
And so, teachers are happy to come on board, take on the extra work.
Good, no, because it's not about taking on the extra work. It's about avoiding, you know, the blame game that they have with parents because they're not able to give that individual attention to everybody. Right?
Okay, so for you as an entrepreneur now, you know, are you missing at all the sort of banking days, or is this much more thrilling to sort of be doing your own thing? Because it's a lot of hard work. I mean, it's a tough sector to crack, you know, of course, and I mean, there's a lot of data, yes, but it's also going out there, meeting people, getting them on board. So I can tell from your smile that you have no regrets, really, but, tell us how it stacks up.
I came from banking straight to Chinchpokli.
Okay.
And autos in like Mumbai monsoon. But, you know, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it all over again. I'd just avoid the chocolate late night, you know, because that's like, oh my God, like, you know, let's eat chocolate. But I think it's just been the ride of my life, you know. It's
What have been your key learnings then from this?
So I think 3 things, right? The first thing is that team is a big part of it. And I think that one of the things that, you know, worked in my favor was that I had a lot of work experience outside, a lot of exposure to bring to India, but then also I didn't have a local network. So I think that investing a lot of time building the right team is a really good thing to do. The second thing is that following your gut instinct always helps, you know, because, and I think it's also a very Chicago thing because it's the idea that wins and you've got to stay true to what the data says, right?
Got it.
And there were a lot of times when we could have swayed from our paths around performance improvement and the analytics, but we stuck to our gut, and I think that really worked out for us. And the third thing is that there'll be a lot of opportunities where you'd have an opportunity to make a quick kill or a quick buck, right? But in the long term, being sort of concentrating on end student value or in any industry context, end user value is going to pay off the best in the longest run. And I think coming back to the tie-ups thing, right? Now think about a data engine in education. Think about all of the other beautiful assets being created for students, like video lectures, like, you know, other content. We know when the need arises, right? I know when Jai Ganesh Kalyan Sundaram drops 20% in physics, right? So when I know he drops 20% in physics in one concept, I can introduce him to the whole world of possibilities out there on the internet and other resources. So we're looking forward to working with everybody to make education in India more individualized.
Aditi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Pleasure
very
chatting to you, and we hope to see a lot more of you as well going ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes.
All right, Aditi Avasthi of embibe talking us through some of the challenges in the educational or the ed tech space on Rising Stars today. We take a very quick break. Back with more on the other side.